In today's society, we are strangled by stereotypes that seem to dictate the things that men and women, boys and girls, are or are not allowed to do. The practical effects of this restrictive stereotyping can be seen everywhere, and the accumulation of this gender-based stereotyping over a lifetime can have a dramatic effect on the ways men and women are utilized by society further on down the road. For example, only 11% of practicing engineers are female, and only 10% of practicing nurses are male. To me, these statistics are no accident. They are simply a quantitative representation of the ways in which society suppresses men and women from certain lines of work. So the question begs to be answered: when did it all start? When were men told that they could not work as nurses or elementary school teachers? When were women told that they could not work in construction or as engineers? I believe that there was a time in every person's life when they truly did believe that they could be anything they wanted to be. A time when that person is very young, and before they have had the modern experience through which they learn that some jobs, events, or actions are for girls only, and that others are reserved for boys. At this age, a child's mind is plastic, and it is constantly being exposed to the hundreds of societal rules that will forever change the way it operates. It is at this time that a person learns the stereotypes they learn to live by. However, it does not have to be this way. Imagine instead that at this delicate and ductile stage of a person's life, they are exposed to a different image of society. An image where boys and girls compete for the same jobs with the same credentials, where there is no discussion of whether or not a girl is allowed to become a chef or a boy is allowed to be a stay-at-home dad. It is the goal of this video to provide just one way by which we can start to move towards this ideal and gender-neutral image of society by targeting a single source of stereotyping that every person has access to throughout this impressionable stage that is childhood. Introducing toys. It is no secret that the vast majority of toys on the market today have a gender associated with them. Oftentimes, building or construction-related toys like Legos or Playmobil target the young male consumer, while beauty or baby-related toys like Barbie or many stuffed animals target the young female audience. This is painfully obvious in most toy aisles across the continent, and is equally obvious in websites that sell toys and advertisements that market them. For example, the Walmart website, much like its stores, has a strict division between the boys' toys and the girls' toys sections, with the boys' toys sections always containing toys like Star Wars Legos, action figures, or even athletic equipment, while also having a blue/yellow theme. This is while the girls section always contains toys like dolls, makeup kits, and cooking-related toys with a pink-white theme. This becomes even more obvious in the way a Walmart's website changes the available categories in the boys versus girls toys sections, with the boys toy section offering categories like games and puzzles and building block sets and blocks. The girls' toys section, on the other hand, offers categories like dolls and dollhouses and stuffed animals. Each toy on the website even has a gender tab as one of the toy's technical specifications. Although this distinction between toys meant for girls and toys meant for boys is relatively obvious for all types of toys, the remainder of this video will focus on the gendered characteristics of human toys such as dolls, Barbies, and action figures, as these are a common way in which children are first exposed to the gender stereotypes that are so damaging later in life. As an example, let's look at one of the most recognizable examples in history, the Barbie doll. Today, Barbie dolls are still a massive player in the toy industry. Mattel, the company that produces and sells these dolls, is still selling in excess of 90 million new dolls every year and taking up more than 20% of the fashion dolls market. This obviously is problematic, as Barbie dolls are notorious for representing a completely unrealistic ideal for beauty. One study, headed by Kevin I. Norton, does a good job of quantifying the differences between a Barbie doll's proportions, the proportions of a model, and the proportions of an anorexic person by grading the discrepancies between different measurements for things like head and neck size. These discrepancies correspond to what Norton calls a z-score, and the z-scores are what have been plotted. As you can see in the bar graph, where the black bars represent the Barbie doll's proportions, the white bars represent an anorexic person's proportions, and the gray bar represents a model's proportions, Barbie doll's proportions are extreme in every way by any standards. This study also examined the proportions of the male character of the Barbie saga, Ken. Similarly to the Barbie doll, the Ken doll also misrepresents even the most fit male proportions as shown in the graph, where Ken doll proportions as a z-score are the gray bars, and a football player's proportions as a z-score are the black bars. So what's the big deal? Does this unrealistic standard of beauty presented by dolls like Barbie actually have an effect on the way girls feel about their own looks? A study by Helga Dittmar says that it does. In this study, 3 groups of girls, one group of girls ages 5 to 6, one group of girls ages 6 to 7, and one group of girls ages 7 to 8 were examined. Each group was subdivided into 3 sections. One section in each group got long-term exposure to the Barbie doll. Another section got exposure to an Emmy doll, which attempts to replicate the real proportions of average women, and the final section did not get any dolls. After 1 year, each section of each group was given a series of tests to determine if any of the girls were experiencing body dissatisfaction. As you may have guessed, girls exposed to the Barbie doll, especially in the younger age groups, experienced higher amounts of body dissatisfaction compared to the other 2 groups. The other 2 sections were similar, as the kids in these sections only had a low amount of body dissatisfaction. This is telling and problematic, as another study by Sarah Gorgon shows a direct correlation between body dissatisfaction and other negative effects such as a depressed mood and a higher chance of developing eating disorders. Apart from the unrealistic physical appearance of Barbie, the company went even one step further in the creation of the TV show Barbie: Life in the Dream House. This show is centered about the character Barbie and her life. In this show, Barbie is cast to be somewhat unintelligent and super materialistic, with many of her problems being solved by Ken, one of the only male characters in the show. This is definitely more prevalent in the earlier seasons, but it is still obvious in the newer ones as well. Overall, parental reviews of the show pick out how the show pursues the stereotypes already surrounding Barbie to the extreme, making Barbie an even more unideal role model for young girls. Apart from the issues of toys and the characters they represent serving as bad role models for children, there is still another issue associated with the toy industry. That is the issue of the availability of certain kinds of toys to certain genders. In the past, and in large parts today, toys such as Legos, Transformers, and other toys that require spatial reasoning skills to operate have been predominantly marketed towards boys. This is a problem because the skills and interests that develop in children who play with these kinds of toys often are intertwined with the skills and interests that drive STEM fields. That means that the girls who are not exposed to such toys may not develop the interests required to pursue STEM careers. This is obvious in the way that only 8% of mechanical engineers are women, or how only 11% of electrical engineers are women. Although these issues with toys may have been more of an issue in the past than they are today, Barbie sales are decreasing as they promise to come out with more realistically proportioned Barbies in the next few years. LEGO has begun advertising to both boys and girls, although there is still a clear division between girl sets and boy sets. It is important to realize that the issue does not lie in the toys themselves. These toy companies are just trying to be as profitable as possible, and if that means splitting the market, that means splitting the market. The real problem lies with the parents and teachers who buy and promote these gender-biased toys for their children and students. So in the end, the solution starts at home. If everyone could just worry a little less about what toys their children are playing with and a little more about the messages and lessons their toys conveyed, we would start down the path to a less sexist, more productive society where everyone is used to their full potential regardless of their sex.